welcome to the Comparing Solar Quotes webinar. My name is Abby Jager. I'm Program Manager at Solar Oregon. Today we're going to be going through how you can read and compare different solar quotes. On the agenda today, we'll start by taking a look at the fundamentals of a solar system and how you can expect to see these represented on a quote. Next, we'll take a look at the different elements of a quote and see what details you might want to look out for. We'll then go through some example quotes and compare differences between them. And then we'll wrap up by talking about contractor selections and things you might want to consider when selecting a contractor. We're here to get your questions answered, and after the main presentation, we will have an extended Q&A session where any and all questions about solar, battery storage, relay technologies, or solar quotes are welcome. We'll describe the Q&A function on Zoom here in just a couple of minutes. So as for that Q&A, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. It's highlighted in the orange box here. You can put your questions into that box at any time, and I will be going through them at the end of the presentation. Don't feel the need to wait until the end. Put them in as soon as you think of them, and they will all be saved for the Q&A session. Now, as I said, I'm a program manager at Solar Oregon. Solar Oregon is a 501c3 nonprofit that focuses on solar education, community, and advocacy. We do that through a variety of in-person and virtual events, such as webinars and workshops like this one here, How to Go Solar and Storage webinar that covers more of the basics of what you might need to know if you're interested in going solar, solarized campaigns, and community events where other solar enthusiasts can come together in community. This workshop is also made possible by Energy Trust of Oregon. Energy Trust is an independent nonprofit established in 2002 that provides resources to help enable customers of the investor-owned utilities in our state to use energy efficiently and gain access to renewable energy. They offer key incentives for solar installation and battery storage. Thank you so much, Energy Trust, for your support. Now, before I move on to the rest of the housekeeping slides, I'm also going to start a quick poll. This is just so we can know a little bit about who's in the Zoom room with us today and have some information when we are applying for further funding. Thank you. I'm going to launch the next one now. Thank you. And then one final poll. Thank you so much. Now, in addition to all the other great resources Energy Trust has, they also have a certification program for contractors to help ensure a high quality of workmanship. This is the Energy Trust Trade Ally program, and it is a rigorously vetted, means that contractors have been rigorously vetted, highly rated, and are the only contractors who can offer you Energy Trust of Oregon solar incentives. We highly recommend working with a Trade Ally contractor and getting at least 3 quotes to compare. When you're ready to get quotes from your contractor, if you have not already gotten solar quotes, you can scan the QR code that's currently on the screen. It will direct you to Energy Trust of Oregon's solar bid tool. This will connect you with up to 3 contractors who work in your area and are Energy Trust of Oregon Trade Ally, so they have met that rigorous qualification and vetting process, and is a great way to make sure you're getting connected with contractors that can best serve your solar and storage needs. Now, without further ado, we're going to move on to the basics of a solar system. So here's a diagram of your basic solar system. We have the photovoltaic or PV panel over on the left. This is what you mount on the ground near your home or on your roof, and when sunlight hits this, it generates a volt of electricity. From there, that volt of electricity then flows to a special device called an inverter or microinverter, which converts the electricity generated by your home, by your solar panels, which is DC electricity to usable AC electricity that can be used by your home to power all your lights, appliances, computers, charge your electric vehicle, basically anything you use your electricity for. From there, from the inverter, the electricity flows into your home electric panel in order to do all that. If at any given point in time your solar panels are generating more power than you are needing, then any excess power you are generating flows out through your new bidirectional utility meter to the utility grid in order to be used by your friends and neighbors. This is called a grid-tied system because it's a solar system that is still connected to the grid, as opposed to an off-grid system, which might be a cabin in the middle of woods or something where you have no grid interconnection. This grid interconnection goes both ways and also allows you to draw power from the grid when you are generating less power than your home needs at any given point in time. The process that allows us to do that and helps save you money is also called net metering. Net metering is the system that tracks how much electricity you're both pulling from the grid and exporting to the grid so that you can receive credit for that power. These are all the basic components of a solar system. It's very simple. That's part of what makes solar so great is it's highly modular and can be really customized to fit your home and your needs. So now let's talk a little bit more about net metering, which is that program I mentioned that helps solar save you money by tracking both how much you are exporting to the grid and how much you are importing to your home from the grid. So let's think about a typical sunny summer month or day like today. It is nice and warm. It is very sunny out. Every time I look outside, it's nice and sunny. And your solar panels would be producing so much power. That's that orange bar over on the left. You can see it's about double the amount of consumption this home needs. So all that excess electricity is being exported to the grid to be utilized by friends and neighbors, and that is earning you net metering credits. Now, if we think about 6 months from now, it's going to be cloudy, the days are going to be shorter, and your solar panels might still be producing some amount of power. That's that orange bar over on the right side of the screen. However, you can see that it doesn't quite meet that consumption that this customer has, which has stayed about the same. The consumption they need. And so they're going to need to draw more power from the grid. However, this customer has built up a whole bunch of credits during the sunny summer month that they then use to offset that excess power they need to draw from the grid during the cloudier winter months. Net metering credits roll over from month to month, so you can build up credits all summer long when it's nice and sunny and then use them all winter long. This is part of why sizing your solar system is really important, because you want to meet and not exceed your expected electricity usage in order to try and offset your electricity bill as much as you can without paying for more solar than you might need. Net metering credits, as I said, roll over from month to month. However, they do not roll over from year to year based on when your utility is billed. The net metering year will begin and end around March 31st. And so any excess credits you have at that point in time are forfeited and you start again from zero the next year. Now, one important thing to note is that while you might have a billable $0 of billable kilowatt hours because your net metering credits offset all of them and you're gaining enough solar to offset any power you're drawing from the grid, your electricity bill will not be zero. It'll probably be between $12 and $20, just depending where you are in the state, and that is your grid interconnection fee, taxes, and other fees that we pay just to be connected to the grid in the first place. So it's very unfortunate you won't get a bill for $0.00, but $12 to $20 is much less than the average utility bill here in Oregon, which is between $70 and $100. And that average utility bill is expected to rise as rates continue to go up, while your grid interconnection fee will rise at a much lower rate. So now, as I said, solar is highly modular and customizable, and residential solar systems vary widely in size. System size is measured in a unit called kW, or kilowatts, and the average residential size in Oregon is around 8 kilowatts. But what determines your system size? By far, the biggest constraint is how much electricity you consume. That is because, as I mentioned earlier, net metering credits do not roll over from year to year. That means to get the most value out of your system, your contractor will design to meet but not exceed your estimated annual consumption. Your contractor will ask you for your past electric bills to determine your future needs, as well as have a conversation with you about any expected lifestyle changes you might have, such as if you have anyone moving in or out of your home or any appliance or vehicle upgrades to an electric vehicle you might be making soon. Other factors that can limit your system size are available roof space, budget, or limitations placed by an HOA or condo association. Now, there can be lots of reasons costs can vary when we look at a solar system. So before we start looking at some quotes, I just want to go through those really quick because the numbers you see on the screen today might be very different than numbers you get in a quote yourself. So the cost of the solar system can really depend on the size of the system, whether or not you need to re-roof your home, if you need to do any structural analysis to prove your roof is sufficient for solar, if you need to do any structural upgrades in order to prove that in order to allow your roof to be sufficient for solar, and if you need to do any electrical upgrades within your home. The cost of battery storage can also depend on if you're installing it at the same time as solar panels versus separately, how far you're installing your battery from the electric panel, if you're creating an essential loads panel for a partial home backup, and if you're having multiple batteries. For these reasons and more, it is impossible to quote the price of a solar system without knowing the specifics of what you are looking for and about your home in general. So please keep this in mind as we move into some of the more example quotes. When comparing different solar quotes, you're going to want to know the differences in how much power your system is producing. Some simple metrics you can use to compare are how many watts of capacity are in your system, calculating the cost per watt of your system by dividing your total system price by total number of watts. For example, if you have an 8 kilowatt system, you would divide the cost to install your system by 8,000 watts. But it is important to note, though, that that is not the only metric you should use. You want to be aware of the quality of your parts and not just get the cheapest panel possible to try and lower your net costs, as that could lead to you incurring further costs down the road as you will need to upgrade or repair more often. You also might want to ask yourself, what's the solar production estimate for both peak summer and winter? And what is the estimated yearly solar production or the kilowatt hours per year? And then you also want to know if there are any additional charges. So now with all that out of the way, we're going to move on to the elements of a quote. So when reviewing your solar system quote, you should review what is included in your system price. Some items that should be included are all equipment, but not limited to the panels themselves, inverters, a monitoring system, and you might want to check if that monitoring system comes with any monthly or yearly fees, racking equipment, and wiring. You can review the estimated installation time and labor costs. It is important to keep in mind that installation time can vary depending on permitting, material availability, and system design. And remember to review what warranties are included and what they cover. You may want to consider if a maintenance plan is included in the quote and if there are costs to any cost to maintain your system. Solar is a low maintenance solution, but it is not a no maintenance solution. So that's important to keep in mind. Other items that might be included in your quote are add-ons such as batteries, EV chargers, electrical upgrades, re-roofing, and possibly a critter garden in order to keep rats, mice, squirrels, and chipmunks out of your solar panels and out of the wiring. Now, a big price difference can come down to your system design and what brands are present in your system. A great topic to discuss with your solar installer is how the brands present in your system work together. This can also be a great chance to read online reviews of brands and make sure you're getting the system that you want. If you're installing the latest and newest technologies, that can increase the cost. For example, solar roof tiles cost more than traditional solar panels. Both microinverters and traditional string inverters work great, but one may have been recommended over the other based on the needs of your system. Discuss why a string inverter or microinverter was chosen, and with as well as the price implications of each with your solar installer. For your solar system, you will have at least 2 warranties, one on the parts within the system, the panels, inverter, microinverter, etc., and one for your solar installer. Warranties are around 20 to 25 years for the panels, 10 to 15 years for the inverters and batteries. This can vary depending on system design and brands used, but these are about the standard ranges we see. Solar installers often provide warranties on their labor, services, and the install itself. Industry standard for workmanship is 5 to 10 years and usually includes labor and equipment from a faulty installation. Working with a reputable contractor is important. Be sure to ask what warranties are for your system, what is covered under the warranty. Consider what warranties are guaranteed and included or excluded. I know we have all been screwed by Apple before when we come in with a broken phone screen and learn that that is not covered under the basic warranty they offer, despite that being the most common issue. Energy Trust Trade Allies provide at least a 2-year system warranty that covers all labors for repairs resulting with defects in equipment or contractor workmanship. The Energy Trust Solar Within Reach Income Qualify program has a 7-year system workmanship warranty for eligible projects as well. Now here is our first example of a quote. So we can see some key elements here of the manufacturer for different solar panels. So we can see quote A on the left is using Solar Edge 10 kilowatt HD wave panels, while our inverter with an S440 optimizer, wireless included. The homeowner, you would have to pay for Wi-Fi for that monitoring system, and it has a 12-year warranty. You can then see the modules would be Canadian Solar, and they are 395 watts each, and then this customer is also including an EV charger. So now how can you finance your solar and storage system? Because solar and battery storage entail a large upfront cost, homeowners utilize financing. Some solar installers offer financing options. If you have access to other financing through your bank or a credit union, you'll want to compare all of your financing options and interest rates to ensure you are getting the best option. Some homeowners obtain a loan through a bank for which they have an existing relationships, but some banks do not provide loans tailored to solar. Your contractor may have a partner with a credit union or third-party broker to offer a package geared towards solar, and these types of plans usually allow you to refinance when you claim the investment tax credit, which is the federal solar incentive that I will be talking more momentarily. Note that the interest payments for any loans you have will not qualify for the solar investment tax credit. And as with any financial decision, please make sure you carefully assess your financing and financial future options. Solar can be less expensive than you think with access to tax credits and other incentives that I will be talking about more in a moment. So when it comes to paying for solar, as with any major financial decision, I am not a financial professional. Please consult a professional before you make any decisions. It's important to pay attention to the payment structure for your system. How much is the monthly payment, and how much interest are you paying through your payment structure? Is there an opportunity to refinance after you receive your federal solar tax incentive? And pay close attention to the timelines of your payment. We see 3 typical payment structures for a solar project. The first is loans, which I'll be talking more about on the next slide. Next is leases, of which you would want to be aware of if there's an annual escalator and does it put a loan on your home, and you would then not own the solar system. You'd be essentially leasing out your roof space to generate solar power and then getting paid out from there, but you would not own the system on your roof. And power purchasing agreements where you are leasing out the production of the system instead of the equipment, but this is pretty uncommon for home systems. So when it comes to loans, some questions you want to ask are, what are the interest rates? Are there any dealer fees or early payoff penalties? If it is a fixed or variable loans, how many times you can rematurize the loan? What are the refinancing options, and who services the loan? And as I said previously, please look at all the available options you have. Consult your banks and local credit unions in order to see if they offer products tailored towards solar to make sure you can make the best financial decision for you and your family. So now with all that, what are the incentives available to help you afford solar? The biggest incentive is the Federal Solar Investment Tax Credit, or ITC. This is 30% of your cost, of the total cost of your system, as a dollar-for-dollar tax credit. You are responsible for claiming this correctly on your taxes for the year you install your solar system, and you will get it back as a dollar-for-dollar tax credit. If you do not have enough tax liability to claim this entire amount in 1 year, it can be claimed over multiple years. Then the second is the Energy Trust Standard Incentive. In order to qualify for this incentive, you do have to work with an Energy Trust of Oregon Trade Ally contractor. However, once you do that, there is very little you as the customer have to do. Your contractor will apply for this incentive on your behalf, and you will just see the final deduction on your bill. In addition to the Energy Trust Standard Incentives, there are also additional income qualifying incentives for solar and storage in your region. There are also additional incentives available for solar and storage if you are income qualified, and you can find those on Energy Trust of Oregon's website. So now that we've gone through that, we're going to look at an example quote. So here is the first, and we can see this comparison of how big is your system and cost and the different ways the cost might be broken down on different quotes. For example, if your system is an 8 kilowatt system that costs $32,000, you would, sorry, I lost my place in my notes. But we can see the difference here in the system size. So this is for the same home, and yet two different contractors have proposed different amounts of solar panels. One contractor thinks they need 9.88 kilowatts, while another contractor believes they need 10.92 kilowatts. And that can just come down to a slight difference in panel production. It could be one of them predicting they will need a little bit more power. We can't be completely sure, but that is one thing you can note between these two different proposals. Next is the total cost breakdown. These are two different examples of how the cost breakdown might look on your quote. Remember to look at the price per watt of your system as well as the cost after tax credit. If your cost breakdown does not break down the total cost of your system, remember you can do that by dividing the total number of kilowatts by the total cost. So if it is an 8 kilowatt system, convert that to just be watts, so 8,000 watts, and divide 32,000 by 8,000, making the cost for this hypothetical 8 kilowatt system $4 per watt. As a reminder, incentives can vary based on your utility provider and what incentives you can access as well. Now, these are two different examples of how the different materials may look on your quote. You can see that one contractor here is suggesting the sill fab for 20-watt panels, while another contractor is suggesting the Canadian Solar Haiku CS3N Black 395-watt panels. Both of these are probably great options. It just really comes down to what the customer is wanting, and you will want to do some research as well and ask your contractor why they might have selected one type of panel over the other. You can also see the other differences in terms of the inverters being recommended, if they are getting batteries, as well as, but they are using the same racking system. So now, how is this getting financed? Financing options may be directly included in your system quote, as an example here. That's great and likely due to the installer having a direct relationship with a financing company. Other quotes might be completely missing those details, and you will need to compare a second quote from a separate organization that you will probably be in charge of locating and finding. So now, after all this, how can you find a contractor, and how can you make a decision about what contractor you want to work with? Once you've compared the hard practical items of your solar quote, you can also think about things that come down to more of your individual preferences. This includes things like company culture, size and structure, and how long the contractor has been in business. There's no wrong answer to these questions. Some people prefer a small local company that is just getting started, while others prefer a larger company that work nationwide. It comes down to your individual preferences and desires. Now, no matter what type of solar contractor you prefer to work with, as with any major financial decision, it's a great idea to look up reviews, request references, and see if you can find any testimonials or online reviews. You can always ask your contractor for references, and it's a great idea to do so, but we also recommend looking up reviews on third-party sites such as Google, Yelp, or other online review sites. Now, in addition to reviews, you can also think about what credentials you would like your contractor to hold. Some of these, such as the Trade Ally program, can help you save money by giving you access to further incentives. Others can be more value-based, such as being a B Corp, or about which focuses on people giving money back to the planet and having a specific corporate structure, and also being within the Better Business Bureau or centered around a religious affiliation can all be different options of credentials you might want your contractor to hold. But as with all this, and something I've been repeating, if you would like to access those Energy Trust of Oregon incentives, you will need to work with a Trade Ally contractor. These are contractors that are the best as they have been rigorously qualified by Energy Trust, and to help ensure a high quality of workmanship, they have been rigorously vetted, highly rated, and as I said, they are the only ones who can offer you trade at the Energy Trust of Oregon standard incentives. We also highly recommend getting quotes from at least 3 different contractors in order to compare them. If you enjoyed this presentation, please consider supporting Solar Oregon's work or following us on social media and Eventbrite at Solar Oregon. And if you have any questions from the presentation today, please put them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. I'm going to go ahead and launch one final poll just so we can find out how we did today. But please put those Q&A questions in. I'm happy to stay on for as long as I need to get your questions answered. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. You can also email us at info@solaroregon.org. And if you do still need to request a custom analysis and bid, you can scan that QR code that's on the screen now. And thank you so much for coming today.